Good day, everybody. This is Charleston City Councilman Jim McBride for City of Charleston District 3, which covers part of Johns Island and a little bit of James Island. And I want to give you an overview of a town hall that I hosted at Sunrise Bistro on this past Tuesday, April 28th at 6:30 p.m., covering the topics that you see there. Plans for a new Low Tide Brewing and city plans for a traffic signal on Maybank and Southwick St. John's Woods intersection. An update on traffic analysis data system that we're working on, and I'll be focusing on this presentation for at the Maybank and Main Road traffic, but the system covers all over wherever you want it, basically. And then 2026 transportation sales tax details, where I highlight the 2004 and the 2016 county transportation sales tax programs, and where all the projects that were done and are being done through those sales taxes, to show the accountability of the previous sales taxes. And of course, we'll get into the 2026 sales tax coming up in November, and the projects that are going to be on that list. I'm going to break this up into chapters so you can go down to the comments and click and just fast forward to whatever portion of this presentation you want. But again, we had at least 80 people come. It was amazing to have that many people come and get this information, and I can't wait to share it. So please share this video with people, and share portions of the video with people, depending on what they want to know, and get the word out so people are informed. So we had it at Sunrise Bistro. Like I said, that's an AI-generated version of Sunrise Bistro, but that's been my fourth or fifth town hall that Jessica, the co-owner, has been very gracious to host there. She was able to pack in over 80 chairs, and every one of them was filled with some standing room only, so had a phenomenal turnout. Very grateful for that. You can, of course, go to Sunrise Bistro for good food, great people, and Johns Island joy. And she has other locations outside of just Johns Island. She's got Mount Pleasant, Somerville, Aiken, and Goose Creek, South Carolina. Those are the hours. Great place, community meeting and eating. So the first topic was the Low Tide Brewing that's going to be built, and that's a picture right there to give you a sense of what this place is going to look like. It's a just incredible enhancement to the current Low Tide that's currently on Maybank, and it's a big enhancement over the current Low Tide on Maybank. So Mike Fielding, the owner, he'll be moving from the current Low Tide to the new one. You can see it's located there, just left of the Trophy Lakes. So this is the presentation that Mike Fielding presented at the town hall. His goal is to make it a locally owned, community-driven, and built around shared experiences. He really enjoys having events and fundraisers and things like that to try to bring the community together as much as possible. And this new location will really allow that to happen more than ever. They're moving, expanding because they outgrew the current space. Production's at capacity. They even added a second production space at the new site. And relocation is required because they're leasing the building they're in now. So they had to move at some point anyway. And this gives them more opportunities to give back to the community. Still going to be dog friendly, and a great space for families to spend time in and enjoy. Adult friendly areas, large green space, and community events. And his goal is the most sustainable brewery in the state. He's pursuing Charleston Rises certification, and the trees from the site that had to be removed, first of all, were graded as like low quality, meaning they were either damaged from tornadoes in the past or disease. So as much as possible, only the older and diseased trees were taken down, and they preserved as many healthy trees as they could. But the trees that were taken down, he reused and recycled into the construction of the new location. It's going to create a lot of local jobs. Of course, and he used local contractors, Blackwater Acres, and Accent Trusts two local suppliers. There's a trust right there from Accent Trusts that he's putting into the new location and supports nearby businesses. And his goal has always been when he moved to try to plug into the city's plan for Johns Island Greenway, which has been very difficult and slow to execute. It's from 16 years ago. And we're trying to find ways, the city's been trying to find ways to make connections parallel to Maybank, basically on both sides of the island. This location allows for a portion of that to happen. It's very pedestrian friendly, as you'll see here in a second. Got a lot of community space, and it kind of connects a couple different large neighborhood areas of Johns Island near the Trophy Lakes. It's another picture of where it's going. Just north of Maybank, just to the southwest of the Trophy Lakes area. And they found the property in 2019, and they did the groundbreaking this past September 3rd, 2025. That's his little boy doing the groundbreaking. I was out there as well. It was great, great moment, and looking forward to this thing coming to fruition. Again, that's what it's going to look like. That's from kind of the rear view. It's artist rendering, but that's with the landscaping and everything that he's going to do when everything grows in. That's the goal. What it's going to look like. You can see different places. Fire pit, seating area, and picnic tables and green space, and it just looks beautiful. He's using all the local fauna from the South Carolina area. He's not importing anything from other parts of the country. It's all going to be local South Carolina type of greenery there. What's next? Finishing, framing, and rough-in utilities. Brewing equipment will be installed from July through August of this year. Targeting certificate of occupancy late September 2026, just around the corner, and estimated opening late November of 2026. It's approximately 60% complete. There's the actual construction right there as of a couple weeks ago. It's inside of the larger building. There's a view from the building of kind of the green space area. You can see one of the big trees that was preserved. This is an artist rendering coming from the road that goes in front of the two major buildings there. And that's what it looks like right now. So you can see how close from the renderings to final production. A couple adjustments, but that's pretty close to what it's going to look like. And he wanted to thank everybody. This is going to be built for the community. Can't wait to welcome everybody there. Targeting late 2026 opening. So very much looking forward to it. And the reason I asked him to come and give this presentation, because this truly is a development that is good for Johns Island as a whole. It benefits all of us that want to use it. It connects neighborhoods. It adds walking spaces. So that's really why I want to highlight it. It's just going to be a great addition to Johns Island, benefiting all of us. Okay, then I talked through the city's plans for a traffic signal on Maybank Highway and St. John's Wood intersection near Southwick. Now, going into it, I know that a lot of people think, oh, the last thing we need on Maybank is another traffic signal. I understand that sentiment. I want to point out that the problems on Maybank, the terrible traffic flow on Maybank Highway, are due to the bottlenecks in two locations primarily: River Road intersection on Maybank and Main Bohicket intersection on Maybank. When those bottlenecks are opened up, the in between Maybank is not that bad. Where it's bad on Maybank is for the people trying to get onto Maybank from the neighborhoods and side streets onto Maybank, especially trying to turn left. Anywhere on Maybank is just about impossible without sitting there for 10 minutes and then taking a chance, and to turn left with a little gap in traffic. It's really bad. So this signal, if it goes in the way I'll show you here, will help a lot of people. So here's who it'll help. This is Maybank on the south side there, south right, the bottom right corner of that picture. Brownswood Road up in the top left corner of the picture. That's where the traffic signal would go on St. John's Woods Parkway, just next to Southwick. Now, this picture's looking from, you got Maybank up in the top left corner, looking south of Maybank, and that's a traffic signal. So just two perspectives of using the traffic signal as your reference. And those are the two huge neighborhood areas that this will help dramatically. We're talking a couple thousand homes, just estimating. On top of that, on the left picture, all the neighborhoods accessed via Brownswood Road, which are even way more than what this picture shows, would now have access to curve around on Southwick, from Brownswood to Southwick, and it curves around down to Maybank. So instead of having to go all the way to Main Road in Brownswood, they can go here if they want to turn left onto Maybank earlier. So it helps a whole lot of people. And of course, on the right picture there, the St. John's Woods neighborhood, East Amy Lane, Acorn Drop Lane, and all those neighborhoods down there. It helps a whole lot of people that right now cannot turn safely left onto Maybank from their neighborhoods, which really impedes their ability to get around. So the city, by the way, doesn't have a fund to go put traffic lights everywhere. They have to, based on traffic studies, which is state law and local ordinances that require developers to put in certain traffic mitigation measures based on the traffic impacts to their development, is requiring a traffic light, a traffic signal there. Here is, just to help everyone's reference a little bit better here, there's just a Google Maps view to give everybody kind of context. I'm going to get into a more complicated picture here in a second. So you have Southwick there on the left, St. John's Woods Parkway on the right, and you got the Natural there at the corner of St. John's Woods and Maybank, and Gold Star Coffee's there. That's where a new road would go on the left. So it would extend from St. John's Woods Parkway across the street. And that's where the traffic signal would go. So people coming from Southwick wouldn't necessarily go, if they wanted to turn left onto Maybank, they wouldn't go to Southwick and Maybank. They would turn left on that new road and get to the traffic light that way. And then those from St. John's Woods, of course, would just go to the traffic signal. So this is the more complicated engineering map, just to show you context. So on the bottom right, I put some pictures there to scale so people can see where this is. So on the right there, that you see Gold Star Coffee, Snow Monkeys, the Natural, and then you have, let me build this out a little bit. You have Southwick Drive right there, existing Southwick Drive, going just to the north of Sea Island Habitat for Humanity. These are all, the white roads are all existing roads. The gray roads would be the new roads that would be built with this development. And there's a traffic signal, and it's complicated how they came up with a solution. One thing that I had hoped a couple years ago, that Southwick would be able to be realigned with St. John's Woods and just have a traffic signal there. And connecting Southwick directly with St. John's Woods. However, you can't do that because there's property right here. That's the parking lot for Habitat for Humanity, and there's a lot of private property here, so they just literally could not do that. So this is the best compromise they could come up with. All right, so there's an agreement right now with, there's two developments in question with this whole process. Is very complicated. Heritage is the main developer that at City Council we voted for their agreement with the city, which I'm including this in the presentation, but you'll see initially it was this first development required a Southwick signalization. And keep in mind, if the light did go on Southwick, then it would only help people from Southwick, which is great, but it wouldn't help anyone from St. John's Woods. because it would just help the businesses here, with the traffic signal, but it would only help about half as many neighborhoods, if that makes sense. This solution would help both halves of Maybank Highway. So it's complicated. You can read this, pause it if you want to read it. This other development led to the need for the new plan that you saw there. That highlighted portion talks about contingencies. And with the plan that I've seen, this is just what I shared with the city, asking for them to help mitigate a little bit of a traffic concern that I have personally, as well as some other advocates on Johns Island, which is basically that with this traffic signal and the new road extending from St. John's Woods, very close to Southwick, for anyone coming out of Southwick where there's no traffic signal, or from this business area here, and they want to turn left, it's already difficult. Now, just keep in mind that I think they'll be able to go from the business area onto St. John's Woods and turn left and then use the traffic signal. So I think that'll be mitigated from the business side of things. But from the Southwick side of things, if we don't somehow reduce the flow of traffic on this road when people are trying to turn left or right next to this traffic signal road. So you got two roads side by side, really close, which is kind of could complicate things. But that's why I sent this email to the city asking for some ways to mitigate that. And you can read those 3 ideas. And that also helps Habitat for Humanity for people to be able to drop off supplies and donations there. Okay. The next one was about this traffic data analysis system that some friends of mine have been developing over the last year or so. Started out as a grassroots effort with me and a guy named Andrew Turek, who's been really, really helpful and really intelligent, coming up with just a grassroots system using Google data and Google spreadsheets and charts. That's turned into a much more elaborate system that we'll be rolling out soon for public access in my district, in District 3. And the city's looking at it. But you can see here, it uses Google data and it charts everything out on different pre-planned routes all around Johns Island. This is just one example that shows the traffic changes from year to year. That's this example. You can do it from week to week. You can do it day to day. A lot of different examples, different routes all over Johns Island. This just shows you the potential of what it can do. It even has this part. This is awesome. It has an AI chat bot option. So once we get public access to this, the public can put in any question they want about traffic around Johns Island and get, layman's just basic feedback from the chat bot, explaining the answer in a lot of different ways and giving the data based on the question. So it's pretty cool. This will be very useful for a lot of folks, including, maybe even CCSD, figuring out school start times, the fire department for shift change times, things like that. So it's pretty cool. It's really cool, actually. There's another example, year-over-year example on these routes here, A to B, B to C, which is St. John's Fire Department Station 7 up there to a Midway location, and then Freshfields Village all the way down on Kiowa, between 2 time period, 2024 to 2026, and you can see the change in time there. So just showing you the potential, and we'll open it up soon. Still in development, much more to come soon. All right. And last but certainly not least was a very in-depth discussion on the Charleston County Transportation Sales Tax program from 2004 to 2016 to the one coming up in this November to vote on. It's a referendum, which means the voters vote for it or they vote against it. So 2004, 2016 both passed. 2024 failed, and they're trying to get in 2026 in this November. So first, I want to start with some context. my rough estimate, at least 90% of the road projects from this sales tax are state owned and managed roads. And guess who's supposed to maintain and improve state owned managed roads? The state is, but the state does not have the money, which you'll see why in a second. So on the top right hand side of the screen, you can see we're South Carolina's 40th in geography size, 23rd in population, 23rd state in the country, rank wise. We have the fourth most miles of state owned roads, not per capita, but literally the fourth most miles of state owned roads in a really small state of geography. And then 30th, ranked 30th in state gas tax. Those last two bullets summarize the crux of our problem of why it's so hard to get our roads improved in municipalities, because the state does not bring in the revenue they need to maintain and improve all the roads that they own. So they've had to prioritize doing major projects like bridges around the state and interstates. Within municipalities, they don't have the money to do a whole lot. That is why Charleston County in 2004, I believe, was the first county to come up with the transportation sales tax. And then 5 other counties have followed suit since then. Because this is not just a Charleston County issue, it's an issue all over the state. So other counties have done the same thing because the state does not have the money to improve state roads within municipalities that are growing rapidly. South Carolina last year was the number one growth percentage state in the country. So that's why these sales taxes exist, and that's what they're there to primarily do, is fund state-owned infrastructure. You'll see in a second, it's also going to fund green space and public transportation. But this website, if you go take a QR code shot of that QR code or go to that website there on the bottom, this is an interactive map, and you can zoom in and look at your neighborhood, look at anywhere you want, and see how many state-owned roads there are in your area or anywhere in the state of South Carolina, because a picture's worth a million words when it comes to this. This is another picture of state-owned roads. These red roads on this map, this is Johns Island. There's a Stono River up to the top right, and then down to the bottom left from the river is all Johns Island. Those red roads are state-owned roads, so places that you wouldn't expect, like Plowground Road, Bohicket, Edenvale, Brownswood, Murraywood, Fickling Hill, River Road, Cane Slash Road. I mean, just a lot of really, in a lot of cases, small roads that are state-owned roads that they do not have the money to widen, improve, etc. They have enough money to pave them, barely, but that's about it. So it falls on the county to try to find a way to make up for it. So that's what the sales tax is all about. There's another view, same overlay, from this picture. You can see the orange part is the city portion of Johns Island, with the part over there to the far right is my district for James Island. Okay, so this is an overview from 2025, March of 2025, that Charleston County Public Works presented to Charleston County Council. You can see there on the bottom, there's a link to watch the actual presentation from March 6, 2025, from Eric Adams, who gave this presentation. You can see his version of it. I'm going to go through it myself to make it more specific to Johns and James Island. This is the reason I point out the date, because there's some changes since March of 2025. I'll show you the first one right now. So it talks about the 2004 sales tax and the 2016 sales tax. Notice really quick, so this will come up in a minute. 2004 says bonded projects. And then 2016 says featured projects. I'll get to that in a second. But this is out of date because it says $127 million from the 2016 sales tax. And that's changed since then, because since this presentation, the main road segment A project, which is a county project, is about 440 million on top of that. So 440 million more of the 2016 sales tax has been spent, and that project, of course, is started and expected to be complete in 2028, late 2028. So I'm going to show you a map of all these projects. There's a link to the presentation. So this is a map of the 2004 sales tax bonded projects. And I want to point out something here on the next slide. I'll get to in the next slide. So Johns Island, you can see I added a couple comments here. Not much for Johns Island. They did a little bit for the Northern Pitchfork, and I think some restriping on Maybank, and that's really about it from the 2004 sales tax. And all the other projects around the county, you can see there. So some on James Island, some on Peninsula, West Ashley, things like that. Here's a list of the projects. These lines on the top show you when the project started and when it completed. The green lines, the green and orange line here on the bottom, the green line is the revenue collected over time as the tax was being collected, the sales tax. And the yellow line or orange line is the money spent as the projects were started. So very parallel lines for the most part. Tax comes in, money is spent. And you can see these projects in 2004, sales tax started almost right away. By 2006, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects started, and then the other ones trickled on behind it. So the reason that happened, was allowed to happen, is because when the sales tax started, of course, they didn't have all this revenue. They only had this revenue down here in the bottom left, just 25 million or so. So they borrowed money against future sales tax revenue to be able to start all these projects as quickly as possible. They did not do that in the 2016 sales tax. So I'll get to that in a second. This just shows all the bureaucracy and permitting and things that they have to do, which also slows down projects. There's a project management process. You can see all the steps that are required. It slows everything down. They got to get approvals from all these different things before they can start a project. Okay, here's the 2016 sales tax. Again, not much for Johns Island, except for Main Road Segment A. That's a huge, huge project. Very, very important. We're happy that's getting done. But other than that, nothing on Johns Island. You can see the projects around Charleston County that were on there. So let's just focus on the one project that affects Johns Island directly, and that's the Main Road Segment A. A lot of people are frustrated because it took so long for that to start. Here's why. Here's the 2016 projects, the projected schedule in dark blue, and then the actual schedule in light blue. So they all took longer than they hoped to start. And here's why. So unlike the 2004 sales tax, the 2016 sales tax, they decided not to bond or borrow the money ahead of time. The intent was to be fiscally responsible. They didn't anticipate the inflation of 2021 through 2023, and it ended up backfiring. So they were getting the revenue, but they didn't borrow money against this revenue, so they waited for enough money to come in. And then they did the Glen McConnell Parkway project 6 years after the sales tax started, and they didn't get to the Main Road Segment A project until 2025. And it won't be done until 2028. So 12 years after the sales tax passed or started will be when our project on Johns Island is complete. That's frustrating for a lot of people, and this is the main reason why. It's because they decided to not borrow the money from the sales tax in advance. They waited for it to trickle in. They're not going to do that this time for the 2026 sales tax. They learned the hard way. This didn't work out well. You can never predict what the economy is going to be like in the future. And with it, there's always inflation of some kind, even if it's 2% or, unfortunately, like in recent years, it was 9%. And with infrastructure materials, it's even way higher. But inflation almost always goes up every year. We almost never have deflation. So they decided that they're going to try to bond the money or borrow the money this time to start projects faster. So that's really important because these are a couple of the main issues that people have complained about the previous sales taxes. Where did the money go? Why do projects take so long? Things like that. Okay. Also, the Charleston County had gone through a very in-depth audit by the South Carolina Department of Revenue on their sales tax program. So they looked at their 2004 and 2016 sales tax program, the millions and millions of dollars, to see where that money was spent to ensure that it wasn't misappropriated or misspent. Executive summary, the actual report came out in last year sometime, I forget when, but it covered those years from 2019 to 2024 and showed that for all the projects, 2004 and 2016 referendums, where the money went. The audit evaluated Charleston County's collection and use of taxes. The audit concludes that aside from one finding, which I'll show you in a second, that Charleston County corrected during the review, Charleston County is in compliance with the Transportation Sales and Use Tax Act. And the county used the penny tax collections exclusively for projects listed on the 2004 and 2016 referendums, or to service general obligation bond debt related to the referendum. So every dime, except for $615, which was put in the wrong pot somewhere. So out of $767 million of all the sales tax revenue brought in by that point, $600 were put in the wrong pot. The county fixed it. And the conclusion, based on the audit, Department of Revenue concludes that the county's transportation sales tax records for the reported period are in compliance with the Transportation Sales and Use Tax Act of 2004 and 2016 referendums. So if you're worried about where all the money's gone, it's accounted for. They were audited to pass the audit with flying colors. Okay, this is, I want to talk about the Main Road Segment A, which again, from the 2016 sales tax, it's in progress. I want to give you some quick updates of good news on this one. Because even though it's going to be done late 2028, there's going to be major improvements by the end of this year in those two areas. So Johns Island here is to the right. This is the Stonal River. This is the bridge going towards West Ashley. There's Highway 17. This is Main Road. All right, this is River Road and Chisholm, Maine, leading to a future roundabout coming up here soon. Okay, so those are the same two pictures there on the left. When this is completed in late 2028, there's going to be an on-ramp from Maine to 17, avoiding a traffic signal. And there's going to be an off-ramp coming from south to north on 17 to Main Road. By the end of this year, the on-ramp will be complete. And temporarily, it will be a two-way road so that cars coming south on 17 will be able to temporarily get on what'll be temporarily an off-ramp to get on Main Road. And then cars coming from Maine will be able to use the on-ramp to get onto 17. Most of the rest of this won't be done till later, including the flyover. So Maine will fly over Highway 17, but they're doing part of this first. And then the roundabout on Johns Island side will also be done, target date, by the end of the end of this year. That'll eliminate a traffic light, which is awesome. So people will enter the roundabout, and it'll clear up a major bottleneck there on Main and River and Chisholm. So that's an update on that. And the county does, the project manager does every quarter, every 3 months. I think the next one's next month at St. John's High School, updates to that. Okay. Now I want to talk about Maybank Highway. If you haven't seen this video, please, please, please watch it. There's the link on the bottom. You can take a picture of the QR code. It explains the history of Maybank Highway on Johns Island, why we're in this situation we're in with a bottleneck on Maybank. After you hit River Road going towards James Island, it goes down to one lane. We had a chance, the county and the federal government tried to help us out back in 2010 timeframe, and the city at the time shot down the plan, tried to come up with another plan that led to the pitchforks. And long story short, we lost all the money, $30 million of federal highway administration money back in 2010 timeframe to widen Maybank to 4 lanes was all lost because of unintended consequences of decisions made back at that time, mostly by the city and a little bit by the county back in the 2010, 2012 timeframe. So this video summarizes that, but the whole point of the video is the good news is that county council, led by Joe Boykin as the chairman, has acquired $10 million left over from now the defunct 526 extension project, which is now totally dead. There was $60 million that were set aside for that. It didn't happen, didn't pass 2024 sales tax. So 10 million of that 60, or I think it was $80 million, 10 million of that has been now allocated towards a 4th lane on Maybank Highway from River Road to the Stone River Bridge, where the bottleneck is, which is right there. The dreaded zipper merge that a lot of people don't do right is because of the 1 lane bottleneck is funded and should start by the end of this year. And I'm going to underpromise and in hopes that the county will over-deliver, that it'll be done sometime in 2028, hopefully sooner. So that's funded. So this is the overall concept of the pitchforks. So here's River Road right here. Here's Maybank Highway right here. Right now we have part of a northern pitchfork right there. So if you've ever taken it, you got that little roundabout and then it goes around. It's a really narrow road with a whole bunch of developments up and down it. Kind of defeating the purpose of the pitchfork, but that's what it is right now. On the list for this 2026 sales tax is completing the rest of this project. So I just mentioned how, from B to C, that's funded. That's going to get done right now. It's getting worked on. They'll do it hopefully before the end of 2028. The rest of this is not funded yet. So if it passes, this is one of the projects on the list. And what will happen is Kane Slash Road currently comes out to Maybank right there. I'm sorry, to River Road right there. It'll be realigned to align with where the Southern Pitchfork will be built. Yes, Harris Teeters is still planning on going here. I'm not joking. They're still moving forward. It's taking a while, but they're actually going forward. And that would tie into Southern Pitchfork. And Indigo Grove, which right now frustrates a lot of people because they have a road that does not line up with Fenwick Hall LE. They would be able to access and get in and out from the Southern Pitchfork, which would be great. And Southern Pitchfork would come out right here. And the Northern Pitchfork would be extended further down. And that would eliminate the light at Fenwick Hall LE. Okay, so that's the context. This is what the county came up with the 2026 sales tax breakdown. 64% for infrastructure projects, mostly roads. And then 16% for Greenbelt program, which helps with green space, helps with preserving land permanently so that it can't be developed, which adds to traffic. It also helps, which prevents the adding to traffic. It also helps with adding roads and trails and things like that. And then public transit, CARTA, and the buses and things like that, 20%. So $4.25 billion over 25 years is what this sales tax is estimated to bring in, and that's the breakdown. Okay, so back in February, the county council this time did a really good job reaching out to the municipalities, asking for the municipalities' input for the projects that they wanted to do. It led to Mayor Cogswell going to all the district representatives asking for their input. I gave input for District 3 and beyond, some things even outside of my district that affected our district. And this is what the mayor submitted to the county based on my input and the other council members' input. Okay, so, and everything in red is on or impacts Johns Island and or James Island directly or indirectly. Everything in the big box here and here is in my district. So like number 10, for example, is the Riverland Maybank intersection. That clearly will help a lot of people on James Island and clearly help a lot of people on Johns Island. That's a terrible intersection. It'll include turn lanes and all that stuff and really help that intersection a lot. And I'll get to the other projects here in a second, but I asked for a lot of things on River Road, along Maybank. That's the Southern Pitchfork intersection of Main, Bohicket, and Maybank. We didn't get all of them. Nobody got all of what they wanted across the county. There's always compromise with this kind of stuff. This is a zoomed in view of what I submitted for Johns Island and James Island up here. This is what we ended up with. This slide's courtesy of Johns Island Advocate. So the yellow is what we submitted, and the green is what the county added to the list for 2026. The purple are things that are already funded. So that's, again, the widening of Maybank right there. That's the Main Road 17, Main Road Segment A project right there. It doesn't seem like it seems like we lost a lot, but you'll see in a minute that we didn't. If you go back to the portion where I was talking about the 2004 and 2016 sales taxes, we got way more than we've ever gotten before. And these are the bottlenecks. Well, this is a bottleneck that affects traffic all along Maybank and River, this will help tremendously. This, of course, is a bottleneck that's being worked on right now. Marianne Point and Main Road is one of the most dangerous intersections on Johns Island in Charleston County. So that's why that was prioritized. Okay, this is a breakdown, a more detailed breakdown. Again, everything in red. This is the list for the whole county. And you can see the things in red are on or directly impact Johns Island and my portion of James Island. And that's a lot when you think of the size of the whole county. It's a lot of the projects I just mentioned to you on the previous map. This is a more detailed breakdown of where all the money would go. Percentage-wise, feature projects, I'll start at the top right. Maybank and Riverland Drive, $6 million. Main Road and Marianne Point roundabout. So that'll be a roundabout on Main Road, $5 million. So those are major intersections. And then, of course, you got the Maybank Highway, Southern Pitchfork, and roundabout. I'll talk about the roundabouts in a second. That's good news. $65 million. Very expensive project. And then US 17 South widening from Dobbin to Main Road, and then US 17 South widening again from Main Road to SE 162. And then countywide bike ped plan. So we're going to try to use some of that $15 million, try to get that put towards Johns Island, James Island improvements for bike and ped. So I'm going to focus on Highway 17 here in a second. And I want to show you on the next slide more details of this one. So let me back up first really quick. So this is the Highway 17 portion that we're talking about. That's a huge portion of Highway 17 that, again, is right off of Johns Island. So that's going to help. Not only, this is in addition to the Main Road Segment A project that's funded right now. If this passes, the sales tax passes, then a whole bunch more of Highway 17 right there will be improved dramatically. So that's very, very important for anyone in Johns Island that uses that portion of the road. And of course, we talked about the Southern Pitchfork, which we'll get into more detail here. So Maybank Highway, Southern Pitchfork and roundabout, $65 million. This is what that's supposed to look like. Oh. This is all of the portions of that project. Okay, so everything not in a color already exists. Everything that's either blue or purple does not yet exist or will be worked on. So Southern Pitchforks in purple does not exist yet. That's the plan. Realignment of Cane/Slash Road, extension of Northern Pitchfork down to what's going to be a roundabout on the future Southern Pitchfork and intersection with Maybank and the Northern Pitchfork. A roundabout. What that does is it eliminates all need for a traffic light at Fenwick Hall LE or here. So if a roundabout, people coming from the Fenwick Hall LE area and all these neighborhoods can access the roundabout, as well as people from this side, as well as people from this side, all four directions can access that roundabout and get everywhere they want. And this light will go away, which is a frustration for a lot of people. So the remaining lights will be a River Road in Maybank and then Headquarters Island in Maybank on the Stone River Bridge. Okay. And then another roundabout would go here at the intersection of a realignment of Cane/Slash Road and River Road. So that'll help a whole bunch of people. The Oakfield neighborhood, the Twin Lakes neighborhood, Maybank Village, if they use that direction, and Shade Tree Apartments, everyone that comes off of Cane/Slash Road, which is a lot of people, will have a roundabout. They will no longer have to wait in a queue on Cane/Slash to get onto River Road or to take the Southern Pitchfork and avoid River Road altogether and get over to Maybank. So that's pretty awesome. That'll help us so much if the sales tax passes in 2026. Okay, that's an early draft of what the roundabout would look like on Maybank. Here's the future Southern Pitchfork. Here's General Cornwallis Drive, which is the Northern Pitchfork extended roundabout. So pretty awesome. So that'll help us tremendously if that gets funded. All right, that is it. Long presentation, a lot to cover. I'm going to break this up into chapters so you can go down to the comments and click and fast forward to whatever portion of this presentation you want. But again, we had at least 80 people come. It was amazing to have that many people come and get this information, and I can't wait to share it. So please share this video with people and share portions of the video with people, depending on what they want to know, and get the word out so people are informed. And I'm happy to meet with anybody. I usually meet at Estuary Beans and Barley. It's a great place to meet in the mornings over coffee. I can meet with neighborhoods. I can come to your neighborhood. I can explain anything you want and answer any questions you want, and get your input and feedback that I can get to Mayor Cogswell and the city and the county and the state. So hope you enjoyed it. We're working hard to chip away at this major hole we're in with out of balance infrastructure and development, and we're trying to get towards solutions. And I want you to hopefully see that by 2028, especially if the sales tax passes, major improvements coming down the pike. So God bless. Thanks for your time and attention. Appreciate it very much.